In the year 1746, New York stands at the edge of empire, a city still small enough to be crossed on foot, yet already burdened with the weight of global ambition. Perched at the mouth of the Hudson River, where fresh water meets the salt tide of the Atlantic, the town is both gateway and threshold, between wilderness and civilization, between Old World hierarchies and New World possibilities. Though it has been under British rule for more than 8 decades, the city's Dutch bones remain visible beneath its English skin, shaping its streets, its customs, and its stubbornly independent spirit. The city stretches northward from the southern tip of Manhattan, its skyline defined not by towers, but by church spires, windmills, and the masts of ships crowded along the wharves. Stone Street curves along the old Dutch pathways, while Broad Street follows the line of a former canal, now filled in but still echoing with the memory of water. Houses are narrow and tall, built close together, their brick facades marked by stepped gables or simple English symmetry. Smoke rises steadily from hearths, mingling with the smells of tar, salt fish, horse dung, and wood ash. This is a working city, alive from dawn to dusk. New York in 1746 is home to roughly 10,000 people, merchants, sailors, laborers, artisans, enslaved Africans, and indigenous visitors from surrounding territories. It is neither purely English nor fully American, but something unsettled and in between. Dutch surnames sit beside English ones in the city records. Dutch is still spoken in markets and kitchens, even as English law governs courts and commerce. Religious life reflects the same diversity. Anglican churches stand alongside Dutch Reformed congregations, Presbyterians, Quakers, Jews, and Lutherans, all negotiating space in a city that tolerates difference not from idealism, but necessity. Politically, New York is a royal colony, ruled in the name of King George II. Power flows downward, from crown to governor, from governor to council, from council to local magistrates. Yet this hierarchy is constantly tested. The Colonial Assembly, dominated by wealthy landowners and merchants, guards its authority fiercely, particularly when it comes to taxation and defense. Beneath formal structures lies another reality: influence purchased through trade, family alliances, and access to Atlantic markets. Money talks loudly in New York, and by 1746, it speaks with increasing confidence. The wider world presses in on the city. Britain is at war with France in what the colonists call King George's War, part of a broader European conflict. Though the main battlefields lie far away, the tension is felt here, in rumors of French privateers, in the movement of troops, in the strain placed on colonial resources. New York's harbor, usually busy with merchant vessels carrying flour, timber, and furs, also hosts armed ships ready to defend British interests. The war heightens anxiety and reinforces the city's role as a strategic outpost of empire. Daily life unfolds within these pressures. At first light, the city stirs. Dockworkers haul crates and barrels from ships newly arrived from the Caribbean or England. Bakers heat their ovens, producing coarse bread for households and ships alike. Apprentices sweep shop floors while masters prepare accounts. Women manage households, oversee servants, and participate quietly but decisively in family businesses. Enslaved Africans, nearly 1 in 5 of the city's inhabitants, move through every corner of New York, carrying water, unloading cargo, tending fires, and laboring in silence that the city has learned to ignore. The geography of New York shapes its destiny. The Hudson River offers a direct route deep into the continent, linking the city to fur traders, frontier settlements, and indigenous nations. The East River, more tidal strait than river, connects the harbor to Long Island and New England. This position makes New York indispensable to British trade and military planning, but also vulnerable. The city is aware that its prosperity depends on forces beyond its control: weather, war, and the shifting policies of a distant parliament. Yet ambition thrives in uncertainty. Merchants envision New York not as a provincial town, but as a future rival to Boston and Philadelphia. Wealth accumulates in counting houses and elegant homes along the Broadway. Education expands, with King's College still decades away but already imagined, reflecting a growing desire for intellectual standing. Beneath the surface, a sense of momentum builds. New York in 1746 is not yet a city of revolution, but it is learning how to think of itself as something more than a colonial dependency. This is the foundation, a city shaped by trade, disciplined by empire, and energized by diversity. Its streets echo with multiple languages, its docks with the creak of ships bound for distant shores. The first light of the day reveals a place still defining itself, poised between obedience and aspiration, stability and change. To understand New York in 1746, one must look beyond its buildings and into the lives of its people, where power is exercised daily, often invisibly. Society here is layered and unequal, bound by class, race, and legal status, yet held together by mutual dependence. Every loaf of bread, every loaded ship, every polished boot reflects a chain of labor that stretches across the city and far beyond it. At the top stand the merchant elite, men whose wealth flows from Atlantic trade. They deal in flour from the Hudson Valley, sugar and molasses from the Caribbean, manufactured goods from England. Their homes are furnished with imported china and silver, their tables supplied with foods that mark status as clearly as any title. Many hold seats in the Colonial Assembly or maintain close ties with the governor, blending commerce with governance. For them, loyalty to Britain is practical as much as ideological. The empire protects their ships and markets. Below them are artisans and tradesmen, carpenters, coopers, blacksmiths, tailors, whose skills keep the city functioning. These men often work long hours, training apprentices and guarding their reputations fiercely. Their lives are more precarious than those of the merchants, but they possess a measure of independence. They read newspapers, debate politics in taverns, and form the backbone of urban opinion. When unrest stirs, it is often among these middling ranks. At the base of the social order are the poor, the transient, and the enslaved. Poverty in New York is visible and constant. Widows struggle to survive, laborers face injury without protection, and newly arrived immigrants find themselves trapped in debt. Enslaved Africans, legally defined as property, endure the harshest realities. Their labor underpins the city's economy, yet their presence is treated as a problem to be managed rather than a humanity to be acknowledged. The memory of the 1741 conspiracy trials, when dozens of enslaved people were executed or exiled after accusations of plotting rebellion, still hangs over the city like a warning. Fear governs policy, and control is enforced through violence and law. Religion both divides and connects the population. Anglicanism enjoys official favor, its clergy supported by colonial authority, yet it competes with deeply rooted Dutch Reformed traditions and growing dissenting movements. Sermons address not only salvation, but order, obedience, and the moral dangers of wealth. Churches serve as places of worship and as markers of identity, shaping neighborhoods and alliances. In times of war, ministers frame conflict in spiritual terms, reinforcing loyalty to crown and country. The war with France intensifies these dynamics. News arrives sporadically, through ships, letters, and newspapers, of battles in Europe and skirmishes in North America. The frontier to the north becomes a zone of anxiety, with indigenous nations navigating alliances between European powers. New York contributes men and money to the British war effort, but not without resentment. Taxes rise, supplies are requisitioned, and the Assembly resists demands it considers excessive. Tension grows between imperial authority and colonial self-interest. Everyday life absorbs these pressures. Soldiers march through streets once dominated by traders. Taverns fill with debate and rumor. Prices fluctuate as shipping becomes riskier. Yet the city adapts. Commerce continues, marriages are arranged, children are born, and the rhythms of urban life persist. Conflict does not halt the city, it reshapes it. What emerges in 1746 is a population increasingly aware of its own importance. New Yorkers understand that their labor, trade, and strategic location give them leverage. They begin to see imperial power not as absolute, but negotiable. This awareness does not yet translate into rebellion, but it plants a seed, one nourished by experience and memory. The year 1746 does not mark a dramatic climax in New York's history, but it represents a moment of consolidation, a pause in which the forces shaping the city align and prepare it for transformation. The war will eventually end, borders will shift, and imperial priorities will change. When they do, New York will be ready. By mid-century, the city has proven its value to the British Empire. It has supplied troops, protected trade routes, and maintained order under strain. In return, it has gained confidence and experience. Its merchants have expanded their networks, its politicians have learned to bargain with authority, and its people have endured crisis without collapse. These lessons will matter in the decades to come. The legacy of 1746 lies in the habits formed during this period. The blending of cultures becomes a defining feature rather than a weakness. Economic ambition hardens into identity. Skepticism toward distant power takes root, quietly but persistently. Even the city's contradictions, prosperity built on inequality, liberty discussed alongside slavery, become central to its future struggles. When later generations look back, they will see New York not as a city suddenly awakened by revolution, but as one long prepared for it. The streets of 1746, with their mixed languages and contested loyalties, foreshadow a place that will one day challenge empire itself. The harbor that now serves the crown will later welcome new flags. The people who once argued over taxes and defense will eventually question authority more deeply. In 1746, none of this is inevitable, yet all of it is possible. New York stands balanced between past and future, shaped by empire but not defined by it. Its story is still being written, line by line, in the movement of ships, the voices of markets, and the quiet calculations of those who sense that this city's destiny will extend far beyond its modest skyline. The first light that falls on New York in 1746 does more than illuminate a colonial town. It reveals the outline of a city becoming aware of its own power, an awareness that will, in time, change the course of history.